Coming up on Tech News Today, looks like Facebook is trying to make a phone. Again. We'll tell you what the rumors say this time. Also, worst malware ever attacks the Middle East and new Google Chrome machines. Do you care about them yet? We'll talk about them more next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Monday, Tuesday, May 29th, 2012. We had yesterday off. Tech News Today is brought to you by Pond5, the world's stock media marketplace. If you're a media maker who needs stock video clips, photos, illustrations, music tracks, or sound effects, check out Pond5 for instant downloads at the best prices anywhere. Check out Pond5 at pond5.com, and for 25% off this month, use code TWIT25. And by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow, send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile. Brought to you by Citrix. Try ShareFile today. We have a great offer to get you started. A 30-day free trial plus get double storage. To get this great offer, visit sharefile.com, click the radio microphone, and enter our promo code TNT. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we kick around the tech news of the day, try to make some sense of it all. And we're starting off with some Facebook news. New York Times' Nick Bilton reports that he's got some sources, including employees of Facebook, engineers who've been recruited by Facebook, and other sources that all tell him Facebook is planning to release a smartphone by next year.
I've heard this one before.
Yeah, TechCrunch and All Things D have also reported previously about a Facebook phone project. Facebook always responds with sort of a, well, we're always working with mobile people to do things. But according to Bilton, Facebook has hired 6 former Apple software and hardware engineers who worked on the iPhone, as well as 1 engineer who worked on the iPad. And they are developing hardware. And the reason that the TechCrunch and All Things D rumors didn't pan out is they couldn't make it work on their own, so they needed to bring in some experts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's even unnamed sources who say, I had a long conversation with Mark Zuckerberg, and he asked me all sorts of questions about, you know, how the mobile business gets put together. You think, I don't know how anonymous you're going to be unless he talked to lots of engineers and they can't pinpoint which specific engineer decided to spill the beans. But it does sound like there's more to this than just a rumor.
And the Times article also said this would be Facebook's 3rd attempt at doing this, because apparently they tried to do this a couple of times. They said, forget it, it's just too difficult. But the idea that they're going around recruiting people instead of putting up job listings, I thought was somewhat amusing. They said that Facebook's going door to door trying to get developers over. I don't know if it's anonymous so much as they're like,
a phone developer? Hello?
And then I guess people come out. They say, sure.
Yeah. Bilton also pointed out that Facebook just took in $16 billion. Now, the stock price is like even lower today. I think it's down around $30.
I think it was 29 last
was it
I
29?
looked at, yeah.
But that doesn't mean they didn't take the money in already. So they've got $16 billion in cash sitting around. RIM happens to be valued at $6 billion and HTC at $11.8 billion.
That's good value.
Facebook could conceivably buy one of these if they were amenable to being bought. And as those of you who are watching the video show know now, because you just saw the headline, RIM halted trading to issue a business update about its first quarter earnings, and they've hired RBC and JP Morgan to conduct a strategic review, which is oftentimes code for we're looking at selling ourselves.
The other thing is Facebook doesn't have to buy 100% of the company. They just have to buy a controlling share in this thing if they wanted to have some kind of manufacturing arm or have some expertise that they could it's like an acquire kind of thing when it comes to these kinds of things. Thorsten Heinz, the CEO of RIM, has been quite clear about the idea that he's willing to either license or to sell the company and continue to look at all options, because, I mean, RIM's been struggling for, I don't know how long now, maybe 2 years trying to figure out what to do. So if a sale is the best option, they have to do what's right for shareholders.
But would Facebook want to buy RIM, even though that's how they might get a device market under their belts, and they certainly have enough money and then some to buy a few RIMs, actually? Is that what they want? Facebook's sort of notorious for buying companies that are on the up and up, not the downswing.
That is a very good question, because Bilton points out, hey, Google bought Motorola.
That's true.
So maybe Facebook buys RIM. But Facebook may want to approach this more like Apple and say, no, we want to own the entire ecosystem top to bottom, a la Apple, a Kindle Fire and hire someone to build it for us. That might make more sense.
And RIM does have that private network that they have their communications over. So they wouldn't just be getting something like just a manufacturing arm. They have the ability to pass data through their own network, which is one of the ideas that I think it was Jim Balsillie wanted to sell access to that. This could have been a big deal for a different kind of RIM. But for Facebook to have its own network where they can communicate, Facebook Messenger always was getting through like a BBM. It seems like that could be something really intriguing to something like Facebook as opposed to just picking up something like HTC or some other company.
So you think, but if RIM is, so I'm unclear. Are you saying that Facebook would buy RIM or wouldn't buy RIM?
I think they would buy RIM because they do have some infrastructure that other companies just don't have, and that private network is one of them.
But then they have RIM.
Yes, which still has a lot of goodwill with a lot of people. I mean, as much as it's been made fun of, it's their market share to lose. They keep eroding, but they're not like getting hit like Nokia. So they're trying. I mean, they're also ensconced in the governments. So it's not like
they're not getting hit like Nokia because they were so far down already. Nokia ended up falling really far in the last 12 months.
But their market share is what was getting hit, and RIM's market share is still not as bad as what's going on with Nokia because they did that whole platform shift.
I mean, Google bought Motorola. Motorola is not doing that well, but Google can absorb that, and they think they can turn it around. RIM's doing worse than Motorola. So a lot of folks who have kicked the tires on RIM in the past have not been very excited. I know we heard rumors that Amazon was looking at RIM and then decided, nah, we're going to stay out of that. So I don't know. It's a fair question to ask. Let's talk about a massive piece of malware that most researchers across the industry, which they don't always agree on everything, agree is the largest, most complex piece of malware they've ever seen. It's being called Flame. You may also see it referred to as Skywiper or Viper or Flamer, depending on the security company you're reading. But it is definitely the most elaborate malware ever and likely state-sponsored. The logic runs that this is too elaborate for hacktivists and doesn't do anything to steal money, which is what cyber criminals usually want. So that kind of leaves state-sponsored malware as the only other option. Nobody's saying what state is behind it. Research on it between Kaspersky and the UN International Telecommunication Union found that it had targeted 600 targets, including individuals, businesses, academic institutions, government institutions across Israel, Iran, Sudan, Syria, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt. It does keylogging. It does packet sniffing. Takes screenshots, records audio.
Yikes.
The Iran National Computer Emergency Response Team has posted a security alert, which is sort of an extreme action for them. It's 20 megabytes. So think of that. It's 20 times the size of Stuxnet, if you're familiar with the Stuxnet virus. Made up of multiple files and multiple modules. It's kind of got an app platform. They can swap modules in and out as they want to do different things, and has a database running on SQLite library that it installs as well. Kaspersky says that it has definitely operated since August 2010. It may have operated longer. Hungarian security researchers at the Laboratory of Cryptography and System Security told the Register they think it's probably been active for somewhere between 5 to 8 years.
Now, all those features you mentioned of this, the fact that it basically has an app platform, I mean, this is one of the reasons why it's being thought of as a state-sponsored malware, because it doesn't. That's why it doesn't seem to have. There's no theft of bank data or running a botnet. This is collection of data, right?
Yeah, it's stealing data from a lot of different types of victims. In fact, Symantec says many appear targeted for individual personal activities rather than their company or employment. In addition to particular organizations being targeted, many of the attack systems appear to be personal computers used from home internet connections, which is slightly unusual for this type of malware. This is 20 times bigger than Stuxnet in lots of different ways, not just file size.
Yeah, when you said 20 megabytes, I'm like, that seems a little large for something like this, because it's just kind of terrifying to see something like this come out. Who knows how many computers are infected with this? All it means is standard: patch your system, double check, run your antivirus, make sure that you're not in trouble.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because the thing is, it's in all those countries I mentioned because that's where it happens to be. That's not necessarily the target countries. They're still trying to figure out what countries are actually being targeted and why. The target countries seem to be mostly in the Middle East, but there's some odd things like Hungary, for instance, is considered a target country, even though it's not as widespread in Hungary. It can spread by USB. It can spread over the internet. It is a really nasty piece of malware here. I'm sure Steve Gibson will have more to say about it on Security Now later this week, so check out that. Meanwhile, Google has some better news for you. New Chrome OS devices. These are from Samsung. It's a laptop and a desktop that run the Chrome OS. They have Sandy Bridge processors and a 16-gigabyte hard drive. IDC estimates that only 50,000 Chromebooks shipped in the first quarter. Gartner estimates that Google will probably only sell 300,000 of these things this year. So this is not a hot seller yet, but Google's hoping to change that with these two Samsung devices. They claim that they have improved the runtime. It should run 2.5 to 3.5 times faster than the older Chromebooks. They can handle 1080p video. Google Drive is not yet enabled, but it will be, so that you'll be able to edit your files from Google Drive, like your docs and your spreadsheets, offline. And the best thing is the price. Chromebook laptop marked for $449. The desktop Chromebox, $329. And they come with that new Chrome OS that's out of development now and is actually on a machine for the first time that we've talked about, which handles multiple windows, gives you shortcut-like icons, and is a more familiar metaphor for an operating system.
The revamped hardware makes this a little bit more palatable because, I mean, when the first generations of Chromebooks came out, the performance per dollar was really lousy. It seemed like you could get a netbook, it would do much more than that. And with the revamped version of Chrome OS that's on this is that windowed version of it that we talked about before, that the developer version that came out, I think, last month. So it has that familiarity right away. I think this is one of the things that probably scared people when it came to the original Chrome OS. When Google would keep saying, it's your browser, that's the operating system, people didn't really understand what to make of that. They were like, can I move it away? Can I have two windows up? And this kind of traditional feel that people are somewhat used to, I think will give it a much better chance as opposed to that first generation. And again, the hardware is just way superior.
Doesn't it seem a little odd that they couldn't figure out a way to get Google Drive working on this until later on? I understand that it's coming, but why not launch the new Chromebooks with Google Drive, which is a great way to say you don't need to store stuff locally, though. Look at all the stuff that you have. So it's internet only, but it's actually more of a computer than you've ever had before.
And anybody who's confused, what Sarah's talking about is the Google Drive app that you install so that it can sync all of your apps over, and when you're not on the internet you can still edit them and then it'll sync them later. That requires an app. You may be sitting there thinking, well, I thought everything on Google Drive is in the cloud already. Yeah, it is, and you can still access those docs from the web browser.
Yes,
but you need the application to be able to sync it over. That's something you install in OS 10 or Windows or Linux. So you'd think, I mean, Chrome OS is just Linux. Why is that not? They should have prioritized that?
Probably.
That's what I would say.
I wonder if the priority was, okay, look, we want to get a user base. We want to make sure Windows has it first, Mac OS 10 has it next, Linux is next, and Chrome OS, it doesn't exactly seem to be Google's bread and butter by any means. This isn't like their big flagship product. So if it doesn't have Google Drive integration outside the web browser, because you can still do it with the web browser, and again, Chrome OS is a browser operating system. So the idea of having a separate app that's simply a HTML5 uploader, something they probably could have fixed in. It just seems like it's showing that their real priority is not Chrome OS right away.
It is coming soon. So let's take them at their word that it will come soon. Does this change the outlook for Chromebooks, or are people still going to be befuddled? Is it still going to be just a niche device?
I got to say niche device. I mean, we're talking about we have niche or niche or whatever word you want to use there.
Either or.
I just read
Tomato,
it one way and I said it another way. My point is that the way the Ultrabooks are going, the price points on those things, it seems like this is a really good netbook, but netbooks were pretty much shot away. They were put away because there are stronger operating systems out there. There's stronger. I mean, this has good hardware, but the operating system is it's netbookish. What's the big deal with this?
When the first Chromebooks came out, I remember there were people who were really excited about just the prospect of thinking about computing in a different way, being able to do everything pretty much through the Google browser. But then there were complaints that the keyboards were kind of chintzy and it was clunky. I know that there's word that these new Chromebooks start up real quick, within 5 seconds or so. And if it's a nicer machine overall to hold and to use as potentially your number one computer, I don't know. I can see people being excited about these the way that they were a bit disappointed in the first gen.
And the pitch is, Google's out there making a bunch of pitches about security, saying our cloud is secure. You can use it in the enterprise. We're certified by independent agencies. And so that pairs nicely with the Chromebook to say, and then you can deploy these, and all you have to do is have people log in with their Google apps on the domain, and everything they need is updated. You don't have to worry about security. You don't have to worry about them putting a virus on here because everything's handled through your enterprise managed app store. It's a nice sounding pitch, but I think there's a ways to go before somebody actually switches to using Google Docs for all of their company word processing. That Microsoft Office addiction, for the kind of individual that would use a Chromebook where like, I just do word processing and email, it's going to be hard to get people off of Microsoft Office and onto Google Docs, especially with that Google Drive there. But
I agree. I don't think it's very intuitive for a large part of the population who just wants to have Office-y-like functionality and be able to get on the internet.
Yeah, even though it is in fact quite a bit more complicated, they understand it, and so it does a lot of things that you can't do. People who are Excel masters are not going to switch to Google Spreadsheet.
Nor should they.
Yeah, believe me. All right, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, Pond5, the world's stock media marketplace. If you're a content creator out there, you must check out Pond5. It is an affordable, extremely affordable way to get video clips, budget shot, like helicopter shots, background shots, sound effects, anything creative that you need for your creation. Millions of high-quality photos, vector illustrations, motion graphic templates, all kinds of creative assets. It's essentially like having a huge production arm of your business without having to pay an arm and a leg. You can pretty much download and instantly legally use these in virtually any media production, and you got to check it out to find out. You can get what do we got there? Helicopter sound effects.
Yeah, you said helicopters.
Well, helicopter shots of or those nice soaring shots of skylines, but you could also have the sound of the helicopter, which you probably don't want. But if you do, they've got it. They've got everything in there. So check out Pond5. Establishing shots of Singapore, Albuquerque, anything you can think of, ticking bomb backgrounds, palm trees, penguins, people playing in water. All available for you to use, anything you can imagine.
They're washing their clothes.
Pond5 is different from traditional stock agencies. Artists can also sell stuff. If you're like, hey, I do those helicopter shots. Those are expensive. Make some money back. Use it on Pond5. You got a shot of the fireworks on the Golden Gate Bridge that you took on video? Put it up on the Pond5 marketplace. Its prices are unbeatable, and so is the range and quality of content available. And if you're a media maker, you'll want to check out our special offer. Pond5 gives you 25% off your purchase this month when you use the code TWiT25. That's pond5.com. Use the code TWiT25, and we thank Pond5 for their support of Tech News Today. Back to the news, and Samsung finally released the Galaxy S3 in 28 countries.
Yeah, the Galaxy S3 launched in Europe today, and there's one version that's not available right away. The Pebble Blue variant of the Galaxy S3 is delayed for 2 to 3 weeks.
They're so ripping off Apple.
Right.
Remember how Apple delayed the white iPhone?
Yeah.
It's totally
that's why
they take all their pages from Apple.
Well, their delay does not apply to the white one. I'm sure there's enough blog posts about that very, very joke. But when the blue version is available, it's going to be available in short supply. It's delayed for 2 to 3 weeks. But the big thing in the news today, because obviously the S3 was announced a while ago. If you've got an S3, Samsung's Music Hub launched today. There's 2 versions of this. There's the Music Hub store, which is free, which lets you buy songs, preview music. There's a 19 million song library. Purchasing music appears on all your devices. Then there's the premium version, which costs £10 a month, lets you upload and access your music anywhere, and unlimited streaming music in the Music Hub catalog. And there's a recommendation engine, a radio function, all kinds of things there. The Music Hub gives you 100 gigabytes for unmatched songs. So if they don't have a song if you have a song that's not in their catalog, you can upload it, and you have up to 100 gigabytes there. There's a web component. You can access your music library at musichub.com. And this thing is going to launch initially in the UK, France, and Germany. But the hub is coming to other mobile OSs.
They don't say which ones, though, huh?
They didn't say exactly which ones, but people are thinking iOS. This also will be available on Samsung devices moving forward and to older Samsung devices like the S2 and the Note very soon. But it's not going to stop there. Now, the Samsung Senior VP of Media Services, TJ Kang, told PocketLint that Music Hub will also be available on its line of smart TVs, and Samsung wants it on pretty much everything possible, including audio docks and fridges. So
because Samsung makes fridges.
Samsung makes, like, if you think of electronic, Samsung makes it, and they have a lot of I guess not wired devices, but they have enough connected devices out there that it wouldn't be absurd to go to your fridge, go to your music hub on a touch panel and play songs through it, or your Samsung washing machine or whatever else.
You have various zones in your house where you can decide to play this particular podcast right here in my zone 1, which includes the kitchen and the living room type of a thing. I can see where this sounds like, ooh, Samsung's going after Apple. They want to have the next iTunes. But they kind of have more integrated devices already, so you can take it a step further to think, wow, this would really be the music hub of your home.
Right. Like if Apple wants to try this, you have to either put in AirTunes speakers or you have to have some other device that's connected to speakers. Theoretically, because Samsung has that presence in like physically every room, if you wanted it that way, you could have your Samsung television talk to your Samsung washing machine, which talks to your zones or your different parts of your room.
And it's available on the web.
And the web.
And could come out on iOS. I mean, their Chat On app is available for iOS from Samsung. Samsung's messaging app is available on iOS. So if it did come out on iOS, then it's on everything.
So there's really very little reason to move away from the move away from Samsung ecosystem. But Samsung was clear to do this. They said that it will check your songs. It'll match up the songs. So even if you're using iTunes as your library, it'll still sync up your playlists and everything with that. So they're not necessarily just thinking about, okay, you're just going to move to Samsung. They understand that if you're going to purchase music with other competitors, they still want you to be using their service.
Giving you something a little bit above and beyond iTunes Match, for example.
Yeah, they're definitely going after iTunes Match with this, but they're not just going after iTunes Match. They're going after Spotify. They're going after RDO. They're going after all the services, saying we want to be your music hub because A, we think you're more likely to buy a Samsung device in the future if you are, but B, even if you don't, we're still making some money off you. I mean, that's the thing. $6 a month or £10 sterling UK. It's a lot more expensive than iTunes Match.
And they're doing something that's a little different. I mean, they have streaming and you could buy music through them. You can get recommendations. So it's like how I use a lot of different services independently. They have, they're calling it the hub. They have it all in this one application. So they're doing something that a lot of companies can't do right now.
Yeah.
So it seems a little bit compelling to me that they are the company that says, look, our phones have it. Our other devices will have it. Good luck, everybody else trying to catch up.
Especially right now, we're all forced to say, well, what kind of person am I? Am I a music buying person or am I a music streaming person? And you get two schools of thought, but it's like, ideally, you don't have to choose. You have it all in one place.
And honestly, I mean, how much does RDO or Spotify cost?
I pay $10 a month.
There you go. So you pay more than this would cost you equivalently. Yep. Let's take a look at a few Apple rumors. Since we haven't, there's always a good Apple rumor too.
Yeah,
right?
well, WWDC is coming up, so this is when we get into the frenzy of Apple rumors. Boy Genius Report got photos of Apple's new Maps app from a source who says it's the real thing. This is the new nav bar that includes silver rather than blue. So if you think that this is going to be part of an overall design of iOS 6, maybe they're moving away from that sort of light blue that is so prevalent in the app world these days. But not just that, the 3D maps altogether have a little locate me button, bottom left-hand corner. It kind of looks like that little arrow. People who are used to Google Maps are already used to how this works, but also the 3D mode, which of course is via C3 technologies that Apple scooped up recently. If you flip back the lower right-hand corner, you can enable it or disable it, switch in and out of 3D by tapping on a 3D icon in the lower left area that appears once you turn it on.
They always have to be blurry photos, don't they?
Right, I know. But they're real, I tell you, real.
Yeah,
I mean, this makes sense. If you're used to the way maps work in general, it's not as if you're going, wow, this is a complete 180 from the way that I've always thought of maps in the past. But that's not all as far as the rumors go. 9to5Mac posted some high-res photos of what is reported to be the new backplate for the next-gen iPhone, whether it's called the iPhone 5 or something else. Two black and white versions side by side that show really no real border on the left and right hand sides, which of course indicates a larger screen if it's the same on the front, which you would think that it would be. But not just that, the black and the white glass areas are really just borders. The majority of the phone looks like it's metal, brushed metal in fact. Not just that, but the headphone jack has been moved to the bottom of the phone.
That's what makes me think this is not real, because I've heard that in previous rumors for other releases of the iPhone, and it's never ended up being true.
And you feel like if Apple would have done it, they would have done it already?
I think maybe when Apple puts out their poisoned rumors, they're like, that's their signal. We'll move the headphone jack to the bottom so we know that's the wrong one.
What about a new metal antenna band that looks like it's part of a unibody enclosure? That would make sense.
Sure.
Thinner, lighter, stronger. They got to get LTE
Can't hold
in
it
there.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Let's hope you can't. Anyway, it would be nice if we don't have to talk about that anymore. Plus a smaller
Dock connector.
Yeah, dock connector.
Now
That's a rumor that has been around a long time.
Yeah,
as
I've
well.
also heard that, and that's always proved to be untrue. So I don't know. I don't buy any of this. Do we have any Apple facts to talk about today?
In fact, we do. A company called Flattr over the weekend got a lot of attention because they were part of a takedown of an app called Instacast HD. It's actually something that Leo and I have talked about on iPad Today in the past as a really good podcatcher app for the iOS ecosystem. What Flattr does, and by the way, the latest version of Instacast HD incorporated Flattr, and Apple rejected it. They actually pulled a recent version of Instacast. What Flattr does is, let's say Iyaz says, I listen to a lot of podcasts, I read a lot of blogs, I absorb a lot of tech news. I have about $10 per month that I could part with to give people just sort of my kudos month after month for giving me all of this content that I don't really pay for otherwise. So Flattr is a network that would allow someone like me who has a news blog to add a little Flattr button on my website. Now Iyaz says he has $10 a month. What Flattr will do at the end of the month is pretty much count up all of the clicks that Iyaz gave to various people or companies or podcasts or whatever, and distributes the money. So it's a bit of like a goodwill tip donation type of thing.
It's great too because you can say, I want to commit $10 a month to helping people out,
yes,
or $20 or whatever, and not worry about overspending.
Right.
Because you can click on as many things as you want, and it's just going to get divvied up.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. It's $10 a month. Everybody gets a little piece of that.
That's also the problem because it doesn't fit nicely into Apple's in-app payment program.
Yeah, what Instacast did as an app is they added a little Flattr button. So if you were listening to a podcast, let's say on the move via your mobile device, you would see a Flattr button sort of hovering at the bottom of that screen. Now, of course, if you're listening to an audio podcast, that's not going to bother you at all. But it will remind you of, I really like this podcast. I might go ahead and click this Flattr button. iOS says, no. Our rules say the collection of donations must be done via a website in Safari or via SMS. Flattr says, well, you're ruining our whole strategy, which is supposed to be seamless and in the app, so you can just go ahead and not think about it too much and say, this is great. I'm going to give them a little bit of my $10 allocation for the month. And Apple says, no, it doesn't work that way. Now, of course, the Next Web wrote up an article about it and said, well, of course, Apple wouldn't want anyone to do this because they want to get a cut of any in-app payment.
They want their 30%.
They want their 30%. And Flattr says, well, wait, but this is already money that you already gave a variety of companies. This is not actually an in-app purchase. This is money that you've put aside, and we're just helping you split it up into the right places. So, you could think of it a couple of different ways. Micropayments, if you want to think of these as micropayments, you can call micropayments whatever you want. So there is a school of thought that says, well, yeah, they're calling these tips, but really these are a form of micropayment. And then companies could turn on features for tips of certain amounts on a regular basis, and you just circumvent the in-app purchase model completely. Now, I don't know if any of us care all that much about it, but Apple certainly does. That's not the way that they're building their business.
I think Apple's being too pedantic about this. I don't even think they're being greedy. A lot of people in the chat room are like, it's typical Apple being greedy. I think they're just being bureaucratic. I think they're saying, no, these are the rules we made, and you have to stick to them.
Yeah,
we don't
I think so
care
too.
about how it applies because we don't really care about in-app payments. We care about selling hardware, but the rules are the rules, and you have to follow them. And since this doesn't follow the rules, we're not going to allow it. They're not seeing the bigger picture, which is they're hurting something. Flattr's been around for a while, and it's very innovative. It hasn't caught on widely yet, but this isn't going to help it cash on any faster.
Yeah, this is sort of the next step in the Flattr business model to help make it as convenient as possible for people like us to give a little bit of money towards sites and services and podcasts and all that stuff that we care about. And it's setting their business model back a little bit.
Yeah,
now, they say, this isn't the end. We're going to fight the good fight. We're going to try to get a hold of some people at Apple. It doesn't sound like they've had a whole lot of success so far.
Yeah, Apple's app stores run into this problem how often that they're like, oh, well, a rule said this, and we're going to follow it, and we're going to keep doing this until there's enough of an outcry that people change it. And then hopefully another company will go, look, we have a better app store, a better universe. You come over here, we don't do this. Google did this with their subscription model, totally different than Apple's, where it's, okay, look, if you want to have a subscription on the web, on our app, I don't really care. Go ahead, you can use it. They can cross over. It's this kind of, it's this kind of thing where Apple putting its head down and just going, okay, we're going to do this.
Well, because they know people won't leave just because of that, but it makes for a bad user experience. So when I can't buy a Kindle book from my Amazon Kindle app on an iPad anymore just because Apple has this stupid policy, it makes for a less enjoyable user experience. Is it the one thing that's going to make me stop using the iPad? No. But Apple likes to pride itself on being a seamless user experience. This is not helping. This is making it worse. It's making it stupid. Like why can't I subscribe to a paper from within an app just because Apple wants to take the in-app purchase? Why can't I go and use my Audible credits in the Audible app without going to the web? Why do you make me launch Safari to do this stuff? I mean, that's just silly.
It's stifling innovation. And in return, Apple gets to say we control the user experience, and we don't necessarily have to look at all of these app by app as closely because we just have one umbrella of rules and everybody has to abide by them. And yeah, we know that you've got a sob story, but we don't care because
rules are the rules.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we lose. We end up losing.
We don't need no education. Let's finish up with Dell launching 3 new all-in-one PCs today. The one getting most of the attention is the Dell XPS 127. That's a 27-inch all-in-one with a 27-inch WLED screen, 2560 by 1440 widescreen. You can opt for a discrete NVIDIA graphics card. Comes with Infinity speakers. It's metallic silver, a clutter-free cord design, Intel Core i5 or i7 Ivory Bridge quad-core, USB 3.0. Nice specs. $13.99 available today in Asia and coming in a few weeks to the United States. Iyaz, what do you think? Is this a nice little all-in-one?
Yeah, just all I'm thinking about is just don't buy it until that weird window where you can get Windows 8 for $15. Because it has some really cool specs.
Yeah, right, because it's Windows 7.
Windows 7 PC right now. It's got some really cool specs. It's got a very nice design. It's very clean.
Also not a touchscreen.
Not a touchscreen. I don't know if there's always that argument of do you want a Gorilla ARM concept? Do you want to use the Leap wireless thing that we talked about a couple of weeks ago for this? I like what Dell's doing with this. I think, again, the wait for that window where you can get the upgrade for a very low cost.
They also introduced the Inspiron 123, which is a 23-inch Sandy Bridge Core i3 or Core i5 or Core i7 all-in-one 23-inch screen. And the Inspiron 120, which you can guess it, has a 20-inch screen. Comes with a Sandy Bridge Core i3 or a Pentium dual core. I'm not sure why you would do that to yourself. $529 though, so it's not expensive. And the Inspiron 123 is $749. Let's check what's in the news fuse. Birds. Birds are in the news fuse. Also, a post at the official Microsoft blog is in the news fuse saying that Xbox is moving, quote, beyond the box. And the Xbox brand will become the, quote, premium entertainment service for Microsoft. That means you'll find it on Windows 8 and all families of devices. Microsoft plans to show off what they mean by all this rhetoric at E3.
If they move beyond the box, what will it be called?
It'll be called X Beyond the Box.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Rolls right off the tongue. I wasn't satisfied with all of the Apple rumors, so let's go back to the rumor mill. According to VG247.com, Sony is bringing cloud gaming to the PlayStation from either Gaikai or OnLive. An announcement is expected at Sony's press conference on June 4th.
All kinds of fun stuff at E3 coming up next week. Link shortening service Bitly is redesigned and is introducing Bitmarks. It's a catchy name for bookmarks. You'll be able to group and share your Bitmarks. Bitly has also added a quick search feature so you can search your URLs you've shortened or bookmarked. Oh, like any redesign, people are upset about the change and are voicing their opinion on the Bitly blog.
I don't like things. According to TechCrunch, Facebook is putting the finishing touches on purchasing Face.com. For $100 million. Face.com bills itself as the world's largest and most accurate face recognition platform. A Russian newspaper says the deal may be different. Facebook may be purchasing Russian search engine Yandex's 18.4% stake in Face.com instead of actually acquiring the company.
I remember when $100 million sounded like a lot.
You know what's really cool?
What?
$923 million, because that's all Instagram's worth to Facebook now because of the stock price.
It's actually not as cool as $1 billion.
No, it's not.
Deciding not to wait on the European Union Parliament's opinion, the Dutch Parliament officially rejected ACTA and adopted a motion that would prohibit the government from signing off on similar treaties. While the EU and 22 EU member states signed ACTA in January of this year, for the EU to be a party, all of its member nations must sign off on it, with the Netherlands opting out out. It should be a major setback for ACTA and everyone in favor of it.
Blizzard is trying to find balance for players of Diablo 3. Now, the company pushed out updates which altered powers of characters and abilities.
Yes.
Blizzard said it changed things like Lingering Fog and Force Armor because it thought, quote, these skills were simply more powerful than they should be, but tried to calm players down by saying if a skill is strong but not breaking the game, they'll just leave things alone.
Leave my wizard alone. Amazon Instant Video just landed on the Xbox 360. If you're a Prime member, that's a subscriber to Amazon Prime, and a Xbox Live Gold subscriber, you have to be both, you'll get streaming videos on your Xbox. You'll also be able to watch purchased movies on your Xbox, but not buy content via the Xbox. Along with that, you'll be able to keep a watch list so you can queue your own content. Amazon's thrown in Whisper Sync functionality too, so you can start on one device, like your Kindle Fire, for instance, and then finish it on another, like your Xbox.
Remember those rumors of an iPad with 2 dock connectors? Well, it looks like they were true, at least for some time, because over the weekend, a prototype iPad with dual dock connectors was sold on eBay for over $10,000. The description said that Apple scrapped the design at the last minute and that both connectors on the prototype are functional for syncing and for charging.
You know, that's another thing about these rumors with the headphone jack on the bottom. They may make up prototypes of that every time and then decide against it.
And go, you know what, headphone jack on the bottom, it's weird. Let's not do this.
I like it.
GameStop is now selling Android tablets from manufacturers including Samsung and Asus. For better or worse, the devices come preloaded with a digital copy of Game Informer magazine and some free games. GameStop already sells used iPads as well.
Let's take you to the randomizer now.
Randomizer.
From the randomizer screaming.
This is another one of those hilarious BBC mistakes. I think they're more hilarious when the BBC makes them because it's the BBC. And everybody just thinks of them in these vaunted historic terms. They've been around forever, the BBC World Service.
They would never be so careless.
As to just do a quick Google search and accidentally use the United Nations Space Command logo instead of the actual United Nations logo. Wait a minute. I know that UN Space Command logo. That's from Halo.
Whoops.
Yeah.
So I initially was like, wow, so somebody in the CG department wanted to, you know, play a funny over the weekend. But it's probably more. I mean, well, you might lose your job.
Yeah, you're not that funny anymore.
Or you could say, gosh, you know, Google search, I swear this was it. I was confused. It was very late at night.
That's what I think it was. Somebody under the gun, wasn't paying attention, is not familiar with Halo or the UN, apparently, and was like, oh, UNSC, perfect. That's what I'm looking for.
Uh-huh.
Or if we could start a crazy rumor that Microsoft is buying the UN and is going to do some crazy promotion for Halo 4 by changing the logo.
It's moving beyond the box.
That's the beyond the box.
To the United Nations.
There we go. Now we know what it means. Beyond the box and into a building.
All right, let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor for today's show, ShareFile from Citrix. Look, we're talking about all kinds of cloud services for people, but if you're running a small business, you need secure storage. You need to be able to send large emails and know that they're password protected, that they're confidential, and that your company will have what it takes to survive in the digital world. You get all of that with ShareFile by Citrix. We recommend them right here at TWiT. ShareFile is a secure file sharing solution built specifically for businesses, offering you a full suite of desktop and mobile options that enable businesses to easily collaborate from anywhere, anytime. If you use Outlook, there's an Outlook plugin that makes this work like you're just attaching a file, but that file can be huge. You got a big stack of documents, you got a video file you need to collaborate on, anything like that, just plug it in to your Outlook. You can receive and send files of almost any size directly from your email. Don't need to wonder, oh, is this file too big to send? How am I going to get this to people? And you don't need to wonder if it's secure either. ShareFile is the perfect solution for any business. And the Outlook plugin is actually amazing. You got to check it out. Get started today with a special risk-free offer for our listeners, a 30-day free trial plus double storage. You know, I've had this problem before ShareFile where I'm like, how am I going to get this 70-page legal document to somebody and not be worried that some hacker is going to packet sniff it? Check this out. 30-day free trial plus double storage. Remember, visit sharefile.com, click on the radio microphone, and use that promo code TNT so you can get twice the storage. Sharefile.com, click the mic, type in TNT, and we thank them for their support of Tech News Today. What's on the calendar, Sarah?
Apple has announced the WWDC keynote. It's happening on June 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern time. We'll, of course, cover it here on TWiT. The event runs through the 15th. Media invites went out today. I'm thinking they're probably coming in 2 stages because I'm still waiting for mine.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for mine from many years ago.
Yeah.
Not just this
Me
year.
too. Fedora 17 has been released, the latest version of the Fedora Linux operating system's desktop edition. Nokia is discontinuing OVShare tomorrow, May 30th. They stopped letting actual uploads back in March, but tomorrow is the last day to download all user content before it's wiped out for good. And finally, looking into next year, Sprint is planning to shut down its Nextel network as early as June 2013 because they need to make room for that LTE network they're building out.
Yep, getting rid of the iDen stuff.
Yep.
See ya. I heard it was June 30th. I heard that was for sure, but maybe the people didn't know what they were talking about. Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Got a voicemail responding to our story from last week that Facebook might be looking to buy Opera. What do you think of that, caller?
Hey, today calling about Opera possibly being bought by Facebook. And what a terrifying idea that is to me. It's kind of touched on it, but what makes me terrified here is that's a proxy browser. That means everything right now, I think it's just unencrypted. HTTP goes through the Opera servers. Well, a little change of service, bada bing, bada boom. Even your encrypted stuff now goes through their service because you clicked OK and didn't read it. And you have a browser that's giving everything to Facebook that you can't sign out of. I'm frightened. Thanks, guys. Love the show.
Well, what he's talking about, Opera Mini works this way, and Opera Desktop can work this way if you want to have faster browsing.
Right, it uses the Opera Turbo mode, and that's not enabled by default. But that's when the browser will send data through the server for faster connection.
So it's kind of the same principle that Silk, the Kindle Fire browser, uses, which is we just cache a bunch of pages and we serve them to you directly. So your requests have to run through us, so you get faster browsing.
And a lot of people freaked out about the Silk browser as well because they're like, what are you doing with our data, Amazon? Are you testing stuff on me? They said, no, we're doing anonymous data over the span of everybody using this. I mean, I can imagine seeing the Opera feature being changed from Opera Turbo to Opera Social. You just click that button and, yeah, sure, Facebook knows exactly what you're looking at. I just couldn't see Facebook being that crazy after Beacon.
Well, you can't see Facebook saying for a faster experience. Have you ever thought that, your Facebook news feed was slugging along? You can go ahead and have the better experience. But don't worry, you can opt out. That sounds kind of Facebooky to me.
Yeah, it does.
You think that by default it would be on, though? That's what I think it'd be off.
Well, I don't know.
Well,
that'd be the safe thing for them. Be like,
they haven't bought Opera yet, so don't freak out yet, caller. But if they were to buy Opera, they could continue to have Opera exist as an independent browser and then have a Facebook version. And I bet you that Facebook version would be opt-out, not opt-in for anything like that. But you don't have to use it. That's why you shouldn't be afraid.
Because browser choice.
Unlike 2001, we have browser choice. We've actually advanced. We have lots of browsers.
You could switch to
from.
IE9.
You could switch to Firefox. You can go to IE10.
9 and 10. Yep.
You can go to Conqueror. Well, I wouldn't go to Conqueror.
Camino.
Yeah, there's lots of browser choice. So don't worry too much. At least not until Facebook buys Opera. But you're not required to use Opera. Robert writes into TNT at twit.tv and says, Team of Tech News Today, just a note about the 80-inch and Windows 8 that we talked about on Friday. We sell the Sharp PN L72B 70-inch touchscreen with Windows 7 and soon an 80-inch. I was the fortunate one in our IT department and got to set up the first one, also after going through all features and touchscreen software to come up with a training class for our sales department. Of course, I installed Windows 8 Customer Preview on the included PC, and Windows 8 worked flawlessly with the touchscreen. Very cool experience. It had no driver issues, no screen resolution difficulties. Unfortunately, I had to put Windows 7 back on it, which works just as well. I'm very surprised TWiT does not have the Sharp PNL series monitors to use on set. If you have some extras, you can send us.
Yeah,
totally take it.
Maybe you could give us a deal.
Yeah. So the 80,
good to know.
it's not just Steve Ballmer who gets to use the 80-inch touchscreens. That's nice to know. Thank you, Robert. And that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. You can find us on our subreddit, technewstoday.reddit.com. It's the place to go to join almost 7,000 people who go in there every day and submit stories. And some of them don't even submit stories. They just vote things up or down. Let us know what you would like us to talk about each and every day right here on Tech News Today. We include that along with lots of other sources when we figure out our lineups. TechNewsToday.reddit.com. Big thanks to all the participants and all the moderators in there. Keep it really clean. It's a really good place to hang out and just talk about tech, too. You can always find us on the web at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us. Our email address is tnt@twit.tv. And you can give us a call, leave us a voicemail. Our phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW. John Falcone from CNET joins us tomorrow. We'll see you then.